In this video I have a HMV radio, also called a Regent Transistor, and according to the Radio Museum, these came out between about 1962 and 64. I think they're an all-Australian radio. This one's a storm grey colour. They also came in Apache red, coral pink and teal blue according to the Radio Museum. And it's known as a J8-1C chassis in it. So we'll see if that's what it's got in there. Another one of these ones that runs off a big 9-volt battery. For a minute I thought there was a knob missing there, but I think that's just an antenna socket, like an actual, probably a standard modern car antenna can plug in there, because people did use these in their cars rather than buying another expensive radio for the car. So it's got this nice heavy sort of metal handle on it. I believe this front's also metal on them. Nice little star motif thing there. That's the actual speaker grill though. And yeah, kind of a nice symmetrical double dial there. Got tuning one end, volume on off at the other. Doesn't click that much, but it is a clicking on off one, and tone in the middle there. I suppose a bit better quality sort of unit, this one, with a better IF and a push-pull output in it. So it would have been a decent dollar back in its day, no doubt. Probably tell you on the Radio Museum what they actually cost new, but I don't think I bothered looking. So I'll have a look inside it. This is an unknown condition one. I just saw it there for sale and thought it looked like quite a nice little radio, something a bit different. I think they're spring-loaded, looks like it. Wow, I've got a big speaker in it. And there's our alignment and stuff. Yeah, 276p is the standard battery. Great big thing. It's actually not even a 9-volt type snap connector. Oh, it says here, we recommend ever ready. There's the Arts and P thing. Of course, now that's fallen off as well. Part number, it just says EMI, part number Reynolds. Part number, or pat number, patent number. I don't know if I have a model number here anywhere. It's got 364 stamped on the speaker, so that could be a date. Maybe 1964, which is a 30 ohm, I think. I doubt there's much else will give anything away in here. We've got sticky tape around our caps. Probably factory by the look of it. And I can see an AF116 germanium. Yeah, definitely germanium, so there could be issues with those. Quite a good quality tuning cap by the look of it. Trimmer cap hanging off. But yeah, can't see much of the circuit board. And it's got blue coating on that side, and looks like they've got an orange trace on the other side. So you know where the tracks go from if you're looking at it from that side. Yeah, that's the antenna socket. Through a choke into a very nice big antenna rod here, which I'm just looking at, why is that like coupling, must couple the external antenna onto this coil here, which couples through the ferrite to the main antenna rod. Yeah, another trim cap and a little tubular cap or something stuck on there. And yeah, I think that is metal by the look of it. Yeah, it's hard enough to be a thin but solid metal front. There's nothing else on the back there, was it? Oh, what have we got here? And it's property of A. Mosley, care of EZ Co. So that's the EZ Risdon Zinc Plant. Also it even says Risdon Taz, of course. Oh, interesting. So I wonder if it was someone who actually, if it was used as a work office radio or some other radio in the factory over there. Unfortunately, it sounds like they are at risk of closing or something, or maybe they're just saying that to get more government handouts or something, but it'd be a shame if that place disappeared. As industrial as it is, it's been there quite a long time, since 1911 or something, refining what they mine up on the west coast. And it's Electrolytic Zinc Company, which I think is what EZ standard for, electrolytic zinc, because they use the electrolytic process, or like electrolysis, to get the zinc. They put it into some sort of solution, I guess, with the ore. I forget, I've actually been out there and had a tour, but I believe the idea is you use acids or whatever, pulverize and acids and whatever to get your metals into solution, and then you use electricity to basically, and a lot of it, which is why they're in Tasmania, because the hydro, they were offering cheap hydroelectricity for industrialisation back in the day when they first built it all. And so a company like that uses a lot of electricity, much like aluminium manufacturing, which is at the other end of the state with Comalco. But these guys use it like electroplating type process. So they basically put in some sort of anode or whatever, and the zinc is all attracted out of the water and deposited on it. They then peel it off, and I believe they then melt it down into proper ingots. It comes off as sheets or something, probably pretty crude ones at that. But that's how you get probably this zinc right here. I wouldn't be surprised if this radio is actually got zinc out of the electrolytic zinc plant in Risdon, where it ended up being used. So that's quite likely the case. Same with the handle. If you see die cast in these old things, it's the same with all the old car tail lights and headlight surrounds, and I think some headlight surrounds, some of those were just brass, I think, but all the old car tail lights on your old Holdens from the 50s and 60s and stuff were all zinc. If you look on them, there's usually like a little easy zinc or something I think they used to have on them. Been a long time since I've seen one. But oh, here, actually there it is. No, that's it. It's 30 zinc, I think it is. Yeah, 30 zinc. It's got a 30 zinc stamp there. So this likely was actually made, well, the metal for this radio, for its chassis and handle, was likely made in the place where it ended up, by the look of it, being used and spending its life. So there you go. They got their own product back, which is kind of cool. Possibly it came from somewhere else, but more than likely in Australia in those days it would have been local Tasmanian zinc. It would have been mined up at Rosebery there, I think, is where the zinc comes from. Copper and stuff used to come out of Queenstown, but I think Rosebery is where they get the actual zinc. And it gets sent down and processed, or probably processed somewhat up there, then sent down as a concentrate, I think is what they used to do, ship a concentrate down or something from the west coast to Hobart. And here is where they would basically process it further and separate it out. I think there might have been even some cadmium and other byproducts in there. They used to have a lot of hydrochloric acid in massive wooden tanks for some reason, and I think some of that was a byproduct. They used to sell fertiliser and stuff. It was common when I was younger to see plastic bags with their fertiliser branding on it. I've got a couple here somewhere, because I saw a couple at the tip shop and I thought I'll grab them for old time's sake, even though I don't know what I'll ever do with them. They made good wind guards for trees, was about it. People used to use them in the gardens and stuff, but that was a common thing to see around Hobart. And yeah, interesting, that's got a sort of connection back to where some of the products in it were made. Most of this stuff would have been made in Australia back then, all the components, except possibly the transistors. They could, they're Mullard transistors. Mullard, I think, were owned by Philips then, did have a factory in Australia, and we did make some, at least AWA made transistors here. But anyway, enough worrying about where they got their metal from and where it was used. We've got a nice big speaker in there. That's pretty much what you would have got in a TV set, just about. Here it goes much wider, right up here somewhere behind the dial, so it's not even all vented nicely through a grill, but that won't matter. Oh well, let's hook some 9 volts up. You can tell the positive because it's the red wire. We better just double check, but I just noticed that black wire's just come off. I don't know if it was already off or just me moving it a few more times was the end of it. But we don't seem to have anything connected. Oh, is that actually even connected to chassis? Should be. Black wire goes to the switch, comes out of the switch, goes up into here somewhere, possibly that big track. Nope, of course it's not. Oh, the positive goes to there. Maybe that's the negative. Goes up there somewhere. Or not. It goes to that pin, I think. You can actually see light coming through. Oh, I probably haven't got the switch on, have I? Huh. Helps to turn the switch on. So negative is switched up to there. Looks like it is. Positive is sort of the chassis or this large track. What's that blue thing? Oh, it's a blue Phillips type cap in there. Oh, I'm going to hook it up and see what it does. And we're going to have to strip that wire to repair it. I'm not even sure I'm going to hook that connector back up yet. This would be a good one to put a power adapter socket on, I think. Because no one's likely to... Oh, that's a good sign, it's making a noise.
Have been charged with his murder. The teens, aged 16 and 17, were accused of attacking Luke Manasseh with machetes at a home in Sydney's west last week. Police will allege the boys have been contracted to kill someone, but never mistaken their victim's identity. A South Australian man has been sentenced to life behind bars for what a judge described as a callous and inhumane shooting. Keith Yandel was found guilty in February of murdering Stephen Murphy. He is found trespassing on his property north of Adelaide. Yandel will not be eligible for parole for 32 years. The Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says addressing Australia's stalled productivity growth the government
in her sight is, of course, humour. Dr. Emily Bender is a professor of linguistics at the University of Washington, and her new book is called The AI Con: How to Fight Big Tech Hype and Create the Future We Want. Co-authored Alex Hanna. Emily, welcome to Late Night Live.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Royal memory and even want together an island beauty when I won chess picks. Cutting into our chess idea and divisional extra way last. Taking down the side, loosening up, control the race.
That's HT, I think. Said I should be there somewhere. Oh, there. Not very good. ABC News Radio.
That you have, Frankenstein, for example, is an early example, but so also...
ZL's a bit out compared to the band, which I think is what that is, ABC 7ZL.
It does what you activated it to do, and then problems arise when you forget to deactivate it.
We're not saying there aren't actually considerable dangers in AI, but they're not the dangers that journalists point to. Is that right?
That's right. There's actually not just danger, but actual harms that we're seeing now across a wide spectrum.
So it's largely working. There was a bit of a funny noise on HT there, like a bit of heterodyning or something, so something could be a bit out. Wouldn't be surprised in this thing. I'll give it a quick checking over. We probably should check the caps and stuff. .4, probably okay, but could be a bit high. 5.7, it's only a little one. There's a bigger one, there's another one there. I don't think they had a circular line which would make it easier to read what these cap values are than trying to read them. Often they're underneath them or something. Not easy to read in situ. So you don't really know if you're measuring a good one or a bad one. But chances are if they got some sort of reading, they're probably not bad. If it's not off the scale. And none of these are. There's only, I think, 4 or 5 of them in there. But some of these old transistors might be getting a bit diggy. But yeah, one thing we should probably do is glue some of these original bits back in. Glue that back down. It's going to want to peel up though, no doubt. And I guess the other one went in the back somewhere. I can see where it went in the back. I think that's already on the radio museum, so we don't really need to scan it or anything. Which is something I could do while it's out. Might give it a quick clean. Doesn't show any capacitors. No, even if it did, it probably wouldn't show the value. Just put a bit in each corner, I think, or something like that. Maybe a bit right around the edges. And I'll have to think about it. I can actually put a wire through the back of this thing without drilling a hole in it. Is probably the best way. I guess you could even use the antenna socket to replace the battery connector. But for now, I'm not going to be using it, so that's all I'm going to do with it at the moment. It's just interesting to have a look and see what's in there and check that it does sort of work. I might try it again over night time. That's when it should sound a lot better. Give the thing a bit of a clean up. See what we can do. It looks like it's got paint or something on it. Again, if it lived out the EZ area, who knows, it could have been a workshop radio or anything. Might just be that someone used it there while they worked there, I guess, and then they took it with them if they left or retired or something. There's another possibility that may have been in someone's home for a long time, used or unused. I doubt it came directly from the zinc plant. They used to have a lot of nice Nixie tubes and stuff out there and some of their old industrial control equipment and stuff, so I don't know if any of that stuff is still around. I'm sure it'll be run by a computer or something these days, but you never know. Some of these old places, they just kept the old equipment going. But they certainly had some interesting stuff out there and some pretty horrible stuff out there as well. But even the Cadbury's chocolate factory has areas that you don't really want to see because it does have some fairly industrial processes in it. But at least it's not sulfuric acid and stuff. But there's certainly some hot smelly parts where they process some of the ingredients in that place even. But another factory that used to be a good one to tour, and I used to do a bit of work on their time clocks out there, which was always interesting. But yeah, not a lot of those places left in Tassie. Never were a lot of them to start with either. Now I'll just be gentle on this because I think this is it's reasonably solid. I think it's got quite a bit of dirt on the top side. Yeah, it definitely looks better with the, what is that, the Victorian radio frequencies stations. There's no actual frequencies on there, are there? It's just the actual names of the stations. So that would have been obsolete if they changed it around. Yeah, it's going to take a bit of work, I think, to polish everything up. It's got some sort of muck on there. Ugh. Greasy, I think. And yeah, try not to get, don't know what this stuff is, some sort of textured material. I don't really want to be wiping stuff now. I think the actual dial's dirty on the inside, which is a pain. Some dust has dropped down in there. So that might have to be pulled apart at some stage. At the moment it's barely noticeable, but if you're going to make a proper display piece out of this, well, at the moment it looks alright if you don't look too close. I'll apply a bit of metho on this stuff, see if there's some sort of coating on this gold coated zinc. Bit of bubbling happening, which is pretty common if anyone is familiar with old retro car parts. The light assemblies and stuff made out of zinc with a chrome coating, whatever it is. I think it is proper chrome probably. They tend to bubble and carry on, but they're out in the weather a bit more than these things normally. But yeah, the metho is getting a bit more off it, I think. Might even have to give it a light polish, I think, just to try and get that back reasonable. The dirt's just sort of stuck to it, as is often the case. Bit of damage, I think there's a bit of scratches on that thing, which is a bit annoying. And it's got this stuff built on. It's obviously been sitting somewhere with dirt on it for a very long time. But even modern boomboxes with their metallised coatings on the buttons and stuff tend to start looking like a lot of this stuff. They're a lot newer. At least 20 years newer, most of them. That's already given it a bit more of a shiny finish though. Nice little HMV badge there. With old Nipper listening to his master on the gramophone. That's a bit of cotton bud, and I have to be careful I don't get the polish. Stuff going flying everywhere because it's all dried up. I don't want to get the polish. Don't know why they shouldn't can make a translucent polish, because you get the polish on everything you touch it with. So you've got to be careful you don't get it like in speaker grills and onto this clothy stuff, whatever it is. I'll probably get some on there anyway, no matter how hard I try it. And it gets in cracks and gaps and stuff, and see if I can wipe the worst off there so I can get it up against this other stuff without hopefully attaching any to it. Yeah, it's definitely polishing it up a bit. Kind of colour is going a bit lighter at the same time is the worrying thing. So I wonder if this has had some sort of lacquer on it or something. It's losing a little bit of the gold colour, at least in some spots. Possibly where it's a bit more worn. God, I'm risking getting it on this stuff. So I'm just going to give it a very light polish. especially those patches or whatever it is. I don't know what is on there. I think it is like some sort of coating, I think, that's coming off. So it's probably losing a little bit of its original plating or whatever, or a lacquer type coating on the plating. Not actually sure how they made these things. Some of the vintage radio guys probably know, from some old timer that worked there maybe. But that's one of the problems when you just repair things and that, you don't get to see how they were made in the first place, which can put you at a bit of a disadvantage. And same with restorers, if they don't know how the thing was built in the first place, doesn't really help. But yeah, I think there's basically a coating that's been partly removed, and that's the thing that looks dull and horrible where it hasn't been removed. I think all I can really do is take off some of the worst of it. It looks more like an actual coating of grease and stuff, but I think it's the original coatings coming off, which unfortunately is what you get with these sort of things. They're certainly not mint anymore. Yeah, well, if you look at that handle, that's been worn off in that middle bit. That's almost, I think that is actually silver there, so the coating wasn't particularly strong by the look of it, whatever was originally on here, including the gold bit. But obviously it's not the natural colour of the metal. And that's a shame if you've got to sort of polish off some of the original colour and stuff to get it looking better again. But not much choice, unfortunately. Better to be all one colour that's slightly wrong than patchy, I guess. Now I can possibly use a bit of this polish to remove some of these paint spots, but I'll be careful, because they didn't want to come off with metho. Sometimes you can pick them off those little white ones and stuff, but these are really stuck to the plastic. I managed to polish the black one off. Another blacky one there. Often the paint will come off with just a bit of, if it's just normal house paint, a bit of metho usually dissolves it eventually. Got rid of it, but probably put a few fine scratches on there, unfortunately. But I think that's better from a distance than looking at black dots. But yeah, not many old electronic appliances seem to have survived the dreaded paint dots. You find them on everything. People painted their whole lounge rooms and everything with the TV or whatever in there and got paint dots all over it. It was common on all sorts of stuff. I think I've even seen it on computer monitors and stuff. Probably where they repainted the office or something. Yeah, we got some muck on that end. Yeah, slow. Yeah, look, you can see the colour coming off. It's some dark brown thing, almost a rusty red. Now, if it wasn't plastic, I think you could use a scourer or something as well, but not really recommended on plastic. Now that is starting to metho its way off there, which is good. Sometimes takes a little while. The white does not want to come. You can always give them a little poke with a screwdriver or something. These ones are super well stuck on. And even when I scrape them off, oh, that one came loose. Often they will come off as one piece. Probably really need to remove the handle to clean it properly. That's definitely looking better than it was. Now I've got to remove all the polish and stuff. Could do a bit of a scrub on these controls, but at least they're black, you don't notice the dirt on them too much. Yeah, I think that looks a fair bit better, but yeah, really, the more you look, the more dust you can see behind this, especially with that tone control is probably where it's all come in. That's not the smartest design. There's literally a hole underneath it there, so dirt can get in and it's dropped down. You see a bit more of it there. Some of it's moved along, some of it's up the top. But yeah, it's quite a handsome little radio really, not a bad looking little one. Must admit at the moment it doesn't sound 100% probably as good as it should. But there is a bit of computer interference and stuff, so I might try it again tonight. Maybe we'll even include it in the video, try it doing a decent bit of night reception. I think even polishing something off even without anything on the paper by the look of it, so some of that's slowly coming off, a kind of greeny looking stuff. It's not verdigris, I don't think, so I don't know what that is. Maybe there's still a bit of polish in there somewhere, but as soon as you put your fingers on it, it'll probably get all marks on it again, but that does polish up quite nice. I guess similar to the 50s and 60s cars and stuff. I haven't done the front of that handle, have I? They like to add a little bit of fancy chrome work and stuff. And yeah, zinc must have been a good business back in those days, when there were lights and fins and all sorts of stuff that might have had some zinc in them. And radios even, so that's something we never saw later on. And can we brush a bit of that off? I thought they were almost looked like metal stars sticking through it, but maybe it's just printed on there, or it's like a plastic, hard plastic. It's starting to peel up at the bottom a little bit, so it must be, so it's probably some sort of stick-on, maybe not cloth, but sort of fibrous. So they did make that fibrous kind of stuff. Not sure how you'd explain it, but plasticky sort of stuff. But yeah, quite a good looking little radio. I think it actually probably looks a bit better in the grey. The red one kind of, from what I saw online on the Radio Museum and stuff, not the nicest looking red, more orangey sort of red, as often was the case in this sort of era. And yeah, I haven't seen a pink one or a blue one yet. Maybe if I search around a bit more online they'll show up, or maybe they just weren't very popular. We had to order them in or something because they weren't expected to be popular. But yeah, the blue one would probably look quite nice. Teal blue, so probably like that little AWA clock radio I had, and little valve television kind of colour. Slightly greeny type of blue. And yeah, you can spend all day polishing every last little mark off it. But that's coming up pretty good. I think we'll call it quits to that, but yeah, it would be nice to get that dial out now that I've seen it. I probably can't unsee it, but from a distance, you don't really notice. But the only annoying thing is that handle makes a real clunker noise when it comes down. Probably could have done that a little bit nicer, but not the end of the world. It looks quite good from the front with that down. That's a little bit better without that, whatever that was on there. There's probably some more of that dark paint stuff here. It's slowly coming off. A little bit of metho, so that's more paint drips, I think. But there is a mark there that's actually scratched. But given its age, can't really complain. It's quite an old radio now. And yeah, gone past its 60th birthday, so that's in surprisingly good condition. Someone's at least looked after this one, and I think I've put more muck on there while polishing some off. Maybe it's going to go back to that original look. But I mainly bought it just as a display thing. And I think it succeeds at that. That's just the only reason I really grabbed it. It wasn't the cheapest and it was untested. But it actually looks quite snazzy for one of these things. I'm starting to like these. I never really used to like them when they, back in the 80s and stuff, they kind of looked old back then. But when you look at a few of them these days, they're actually old enough now, they're kind of cool again. And definitely worthy of having a few on display. Just as something interesting. I'm not interested in listening to them anyway, but always nice when they do at least work to some degree. Yeah, quite a nice little radio, so thanks for watching.